Trump says no deal with Iran, only unconditional surrender. What are the implications?
Sure, what the US president wants. He has also called for unconditional surrender from the Iranians. That is a very tall order. No country in the world offers unconditional surrender, particularly against an aggressor. So it is very difficult to believe that the United States president believes that after 5 days of bombardment, the entire population of Iran should be ready to fall at their knees in front of him. I'm not sure that he has thought through all aspects of the conflict that he has initiated. Many of the media, large sections of the American media have been discussing that there is no clarity about war aims in the United States. This is not new. This is even in the past when they attacked Afghanistan and Iraq, there were no war aims, and therefore you had a prolonged conflict, very heavy casualties in the Afghanistan and Iraq, hundreds of thousands of people killed, and yet the Americans were trapped in those two countries without any fallback position because they had not prepared for the insurgency and they did not know what their war aims were. So I think that we are looking at something very similar. What the Americans should be looking for is a fallback position where they can actually prepare for some kind of arrangement with the Iranians that would enable Donald Trump to announce to his people that he has won the war and that he's ready for peace discussions. I think certain countries which are influential in the region, such as Turkey and Saudi Arabia, should get into the picture, convey to the president the damage that is being done, not just to Iran itself, but to the global economy and the well-being of the people, of millions of people. And they should encourage him to look for a diplomatic resolution to the conflict that he and Israel have initiated.
Every day, Trump targeting some other country. What is the motive behind this?
That at different times, different statements have been made by the American leaders. We had the situation from Secretary of State Rubio when he stated that the United States entered the war after the Israelis had initiated conflict. And they entered the war only because they were sure that Iran would attack their assets. The president corrected him within a day, saying that no, it is he who pressurized Israel to go to war. The president himself has given numerous reasons for going into conflict. Sometimes he has said that he wants to end their ballistic and nuclear programs, ballistic missiles and nuclear programs. So occasionally there are references to regime change. When Ayatollah Khamenei was murdered, he said that he was the most evil person on earth. These are absolutely weird remarks coming from the US president. They are a source of great disquiet because it does not indicate that the president has even minimal understanding of what he has initiated in in the war with Iran. And to speak of total surrender, something that he himself has started, he should know what are his war aims. Has he agreed? Has he obtained those war aims? He has talked about attacking Iran for 40 weeks and 6 weeks. There is no explanation as to what he is seeking to target. My personal view is that much of this psychological engineering of the American president was done by Prime Minister Netanyahu. I believe that Netanyahu had visited Washington on 11th February and manipulated the American president. He played on the ego and the megalomania of the American president. He was able to tell him, convince him possibly, that Iran is developing nuclear weapons, that it is an evil regime, and that he would go down in American history as a great president if he was able to effect regime change. I don't believe that the Israeli Prime Minister actually explained to the American president the complications involved in this enterprise and whether there would be success or not. For the Israeli Prime Minister, murder is an end in itself. Recall here the 2-year war that he waged on the people of Gaza, killed 72,000 people. At no stage did he ever declare what his end game was. Murder, therefore, I am convinced, is an end in itself for the Israeli Prime Minister, and I believe that he has convinced the US President that this is the way to go forward. I'm not sure that it is serving American interests whatsoever, or for that matter, serving Israeli interests. But this is the way the two leaders have got together, both of them totally violent, committed to violence, totally amoral, totally without any game plan or any war aim. And the whole region is now, and indeed the international community, is looking at a very grim future.
In the US-Israel-Iran war, Iran targeting USA Gulf air bases. What is the future of West Asia?
Because they were concerned about the Islamic Revolution. Some of the activists of the Islamic Revolution had attacked the American embassy as well. And therefore, they were encouraged to support the Iraqi dictator and to see whether they could stem the tide of the revolution. It was suggested at that time that the revolutionaries were keen to expand the revolution and also possibly get into conflict with their neighbor. In any case, Iraq seized this opportunity to attack Iran. But the attack had the opposite effect. Instead of taking advantage of the chaos following the revolution, the Iraqi attack ensured the unity of the Iranian people, ensured this consolidation of the revolution, and ensured also that Iraq's aggression was not successful. At the end of the 8-year war, the situation on the ground remained exactly the same, though there are reports that more than 1 million people had died. In the absence of any war aim, you usually have an open-ended conflict that goes on and on, creates huge numbers of casualties, leaves behind a trail of destruction, but does not resolve any issue on the ground whatsoever. All of us are aware, and this is something that Prime Minister Modi also said, war does not solve any problem. I agree with that. That it is at the end of the day, countries that have issues with each other have to enter into prolonged dialogue with each other, try to understand each other's positions, and try to see if there is any modus, any via media where you accommodate each other's interests and then conclude a fair deal, a just deal. Only those agreements will stand the test of time. We now need to convince the United States that this is the time for diplomacy, this is the time for engagement. After all, the United States was engaged in prolonged dialogue with the Iranian side. There are very valid reports that the Iranian side had made tremendous progress with regard to the offer that they made to the American side, and that what they had conceded to the Americans was something that has never been discussed earlier. Which is why, but unfortunately, Donald Trump, I don't think he even understood what was going on. He was committed to rubbishing these discussions and going into war. I think the mistake that he made was to trust Netanyahu and to believe that he could get into a successful result within a few days. Every conflict the Americans have got into, whether it was Vietnam or Afghanistan or Iraq, they have never had a quick victory. There is no quick victory. There's no short, sharp conflict. The other side gets together, rallies together, brings together all the weaponry that they have, bring forward a very strong sense of nationalism, and they are able to ensure that the short, sharp conflict that you are looking for is not available to you.
Do you think West Asia crisis become a local conflict?
You are referring possibly to the problems that the Americans have, with Russia in Ukraine and with China in Taiwan and in the West Pacific in general. Both China and Russia are strong supporters of Iran, but neither of them sees any reason to enter into conflict at this point. Both of them would want a stable region. They will become active diplomatically once the ceasefire is announced, and they will then promote a much greater stability than what we have had so far. I am personally satisfied that both China and Russia will be active role players in the peace process in the region rather than in the conflict.
What are the chances of de-escalating the war? If not, what will be the future?
I would very strongly, I strongly believe that nations like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, which have a very solid standing in the White House, should mobilize their resources and agitate with the American president the path of diplomacy. They should be able to persuade the American president that prolonged conflict is not serving any useful purpose either for the region or for American interests. In fact, American interests could be harmed by the fact that if there is a prolonged conflict, global energy security will be seriously jeopardized, particularly on account of very high prices. And could alienate large sections of American opinion. We also have seen reports that the president's support base, the so-called MAGA constituency, that they are very unhappy with the conflict. They don't like to involve the United States in wars instigated by the Israelis. There is a rising tide of anti-Semitism among the far-right elements, and I'm sure Donald Trump is aware of this. The ground has been well prepared for a diplomatic initiative. I believe that if these countries rallied together and lobbied the White House, they might find a president who would be amenable to what they are saying. I'm sure in his heart of hearts, Donald Trump also understands that neither does he gain personally nor does his country benefit from prolonged conflict. Talking of 4 and 5 weeks of sustained destruction in Iran, I'm not sure is what the president is looking at. He has now started talking about capitulation. He had expected the war to last 5 or 6 days and is surprised that this has not happened. But I think this is where diplomatic initiatives are important.
Qatar minister told war will force Gulf to halt energy exports. If so, what is the impact in India?
We have heard from the petroleum minister that we have supplies for 25 days. We have also begun the import of Russian oil, which is, I think, available in fairly substantial quantities. But this is a precarious situation. It cannot last beyond 3 to 4 weeks. Today, the Iranian president has formally and publicly apologized to the neighboring countries of the Gulf and has affirmed to the region that Iran will not direct any missiles at those countries and their oil facilities. So I think that he has very skillfully and dramatically prepared the ground for a peace process. I think that the region should take advantage of this. There is a degree of reassurance that has come. But my suspicion is that the government in Israel is not interested in peace, not interested in a peace process, not interested in stability, because their prime minister benefits from ongoing conflict. And every time there is a talk of peace, he ensures that a new conflict is initiated. I think that he has very deep concerns about his personal arrest after there is peace. There could be the Supreme Court order that might intervene and pursue the criminal processes that have been directed against him. If there is an electoral, there also, I'm sure, sections of the Israeli people have seen through his game, and they would also like to know why he failed the Israeli people so significantly on 7th October 2023. He does not want any of these matters to be discussed, and he therefore sees his personal salvation, his personal interest in continued conflict. So I am worried about that. I feel that Iran has given an olive branch. This is a signal not only to the countries of the Gulf, it is also a signal to the United States. Donald Trump should seize this opportunity, declare that he has won the war and then get into negotiations, pick up where the discussions ended last time, and then move forward with the alacrity that the seriousness of the situation deserves.
US allows India to buy Russian oil 30 days. What it means? America dictating terms for India?
You know, the Trump administration is made up of novices who have very little knowledge of history, very little knowledge of politics, very little knowledge of diplomacy. Many of them, in their behavior, can be even described as uncouth. They have no understanding about how to deal with other countries, how to speak about their leaders, take into account the dynamics of the politics of other countries. For an American leader to say that the Americans have allowed India to do something or the other is nonsensical. India has a long history of the great national pride and autonomy of action. No Indian ever waits for some foreign power to allow him to do something or the other. We always do what is required by our national interest. So this is a gratuitous remark. At the same time, there has been another even equally foolish remark by an American sitting in Delhi at the Raisina dialogue who said, we will never allow India to become, we allowed China to do that, and because of that, China has become a threat to us. We will not repeat that mistake once again with India. What an extraordinarily idiotic remark this is. You sometimes wonder, what are these people who are supposed to be representing the interests of one of the great powers in the world today? Very gradually, and I am satisfied sooner rather than later, you will find the United States increasingly isolated in world affairs. More and more countries will start looking for fresh engagements amongst themselves, will start looking to see how they can ensure their security without depending on the Americans. Today, the United States has no credibility whatsoever as a security guarantor, and their president has no credibility in terms of his even minimal understanding of complex issues. I think you will see these actions have accelerated. They have accelerated the urge towards a multipolar world order. In this multipolar world order, the United States will be just one of the players. He may even find many of his European colleagues are looking for partnership elsewhere.
There is allegation China and Russia are not fully cooperated with the Iran. So what is your view?
Both Russia and China have extended very substantial support to Iran. Neither has involved itself in conflict. Each of them, Russia is already embroiled in a conflict in Ukraine, and China has challenges in different parts of the world, but particularly in the West Pacific. The role that they have envisaged for themselves is diplomatic and in the area of development. That is where their crucial role will be required. At the moment, this is a mindless war, a pointless war, a war that has been inflicted upon the Iranian people by Israel and the United States. It cannot last for a long time. Yes, there will be casualties. There will be people who should not have been mistreated the way they have been. We particularly mourn the murder of Ayatollah Khamenei. But having said this, when you have irrational leadership in a certain country, you have certain horrible, unforeseen consequences. After the conflict is over, you need clarity, you need a sense of purpose and direction, and you need commitment. So I think that is where you will see the role of China and Russia. I think they will play a seminal role in providing stability to the region, encouraging Iran to pursue moderate politics, and reintegrate Iran into the West Asian scenario. I would like to believe that India too will see itself as a partner in this endeavor.
You have very good expertise in energy sector. What are the implications in the energy sector, particularly in India, because of this Gulf, this West Asia war?
that India will depend on imports of oil and gas and possibly even coal for several years to come. I have studied projections made by different reputed institutions, Indian and foreign. Each and every one of them indicates that at least till 2050, India's energy mix will be dominated by fossil fuels to the extent of well over 80% and possibly even closer to 90%. We also will be import dependent for all these items. Therefore, whatever, this is at least up till 2050. Till we have announced that we will have zero emissions by 2070. That seems to my mind, given on the pace of green transition that we are looking at, while we will make progress, the dependence on fossil fuels and hydrocarbons will remain the same. It is in this background that we will have to ensure that the principal suppliers of our energy needs, the Gulf countries, enjoy an environment of stability. We therefore have to become proactive role players in the region. We cannot any longer believe that there are other players who will take care of peace and stability and that India need not be involved. India's crucial interests are involved here. There can be no development, no progress, no growth without energy security. And we have now got a warning. An alarm bell has rung loud and clear that there is a scenario in West Asia when all the countries could be involved in serious threat and that there could be a cripple, and that their energy resources could be crippled and that prices might shoot up well beyond anything we had anticipated. India has a dual challenge of prices as well as of supplies. Both of these are being are a source of deep concern to India. One with the damage to the oil facilities, B to the closure of the Hormuz, and C the threat extended by the Houthis about closing Bab al-Mandeb. So we have to really, the message that I have read from this horrible war is one and very clear that India must be very robustly, very actively, very deliberately involved in various peace processes that are likely to be initiated in the region. Ultimate aim for India and other interlocutors should be a regional peace and stability that encompasses all the countries of the region. That is the only way we can ensure that the differences different countries have with each other can be addressed in a peaceful manner and in a manner that is fair and just.